Shields up, Iron Breakers. Today, we're going to be talking about this Kotaku article. And I know that some people, after some of the videos that I've done, you guys are like, Rurkan, why do you still watch Kotaku? Because I feel that there needs to be a voice that speaks out against some of this stuff because it is getting pretty crazy. It's getting pretty insane the way that some things are being portrayed. Anyways, the title of the article is Souls games are great, except for the sexist messages from some players. We're going to be talking about this article, and before I start this, I want to make sure that everybody understands. This is going to be a long video, okay? Because I'm going to be reading through the entire thing. And it's like one of the first comments that I want to make, it's like, you really got to dig deep. You really do have to dig deep to write an article like this for the Souls games. Like, look at how much this person has written about sexist messages on Dark Souls, okay? This is insane. This is crazy. But okay, let's get into it. It's fine, because here's the thing as well. I'm not saying that this person is not allowed to say whatever they want to say. Nothing like that. You should totally say that. Just like I should be allowed to voice my disagreement about what you've written here. Because you are someone who writes on websites, which is cool. And I'm someone who does videos, okay? I'm not going to give a written response because this is my platform, this is my medium, this is how I address these things, okay? So I'm not trying to silence this person. I'm just going to respectfully disagree on a lot of the things that you're saying here, and I'm going to bring my own context and experience in the Souls universe to back up my claims. So from the get-go, we can see a very tame message. Woman ahead, try thrust. I get it. I get it. It insults you. I get it. But we'll talk about that. Since the release of From Software's Demon's Souls in 2009 and its spiritual successors, the Dark Souls trilogy and Bloodborne, have acquired reputations that are both built on the games themselves and players' responses to them. Demon's Souls and its descendants are as dependent upon their mechanics, level design, and art directions for effect as they are upon narrative obfuscation, and audiences have happily engaged in this by spending years picking at details to assemble interpretive webs. These are lushly mysterious worlds that people, including me, want to emotionally invest in, and yet, time and again, that mysteriousness has been degraded by player messages being used for sexist ends. So I have a thing here, which is the way that this is being said, the way that you're writing this, you're kind of just like claiming that these players are trying to, you know, they're trying to like, oh yeah, I just want to be sexist, I just want to do this thing, like they're actually thinking this stuff out to try and be as offensive as possible, when I think everybody knows that's not the case. It's just, you know, juvenile people being juvenile and being like, ha 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 ha. It's like an example that you actually type later in the article, which is, you know, whenever there's a blank wall, someone's gonna draw a dick on it. That's just the way it works. And I for one, I actually really don't like people doing that, because I really do like it when there's really cool graffitis and walls and stuff, like really well thought out art. I really appreciate that. And someone who just goes in there and like tags it with a random name or something, which I found interesting that you didn't talk about tags in your graffiti argument, but it's like I don't like when someone just draws a dick on a wall. Like, I think that's dumb. But anyways, moving on. When Demon's Souls came out, it had several interesting ideas about how to utilize online interactivity. One of these was its messaging system. Any player could choose from a small bank of words and phrases to construct sentences represented visually as a strip of glowing runes on the ground. The game was largely played solo, but messages made by one player could be seen by others who had the option to rate a given message and give its author a health boost. Messages would be used to mislead inexperienced players. Ah, these are so good. Who doesn't remember treasure ahead? Right on top of a friggin' cliff. Who doesn't remember that? Or if you jump here, you know, oh, like she says here. If you jump down from here besides a lethal drop, their main intent was to make the game easier by way of publicized tips. If upcoming terrain were dangerous, then you might see beware of the floor ahead. Sniper's perch might alert less experienced players to a good location for long-range attacks, or well placed. If you use the lever you can proceed, could draw your attention to a mechanism. We got a couple of more pictures here. Hoorah for chest. Dude, this is a really cool message. What's the problem with this? Come on. Who doesn't remember whenever you finish Smo and Ornstein, right? And you get the message, amazing chest ahead. Wasn't that awesome? I always thought that was amazing. Is that sexist? Is that like that bad? Like, I'm actually curious. If you are a female watching this video, or if you are a female on this live stream, does that legitimately offend you? Like, if you finished Smo and Ornstein, you go up to the thing where where you meet Guinevere, or the illusion of Guinevere. Spoilers! And there she is, laid out with the big breasts and all of that, and someone puts down a message that says, amazing chest ahead. Is that really super offensive? Like, I honestly want to know. So leave it in the comment sections if you're on YouTube. If you guys are on Twitch, leave it in chat. I'm trying to keep an eye on it as best as I can as we're reading through this. And we got, hoorah for chest, therefore try tongue. This one's not that great. Therefore try tongue. What are you trying to say? Lick the breasts, I guess? I don't know. I don't think this one's particularly interesting. Be wary of tongue, ensure try behind. Yeah, this one's not that funny. This one's just not that funny. It's just not that great. I do find the rating amazing, though. It's got 69 rating. Taraxa in Twitch chat says, honestly, most of the women I know who play these games, including an ex-girlfriend of mine, made these sorts of jokes themselves. Female gamers making these sorts of jokes. Is that sexist if it's a female doing the comment? Does that still count as sexist? Now we're getting to that. We're getting to that uncanny valley where it's like, oh, but what if we turn this thing around? It's weird. It's kind of weird. Humans being humans, a bit of crudeness crept in, aided by some of Demon Souls' linguistic ambiguities, such as the unassuming noun of head. Give people a blank wall and spray paint, and someone will eventually draw genitalia. Like I said, so, you give them a blank wall and some spray paint, and someone's gonna draw a dick. As a matter of fact, you don't even have to go as far as a blank wall. You know that you just go to school and you got the blackboard and some chalk. Right before the teacher comes in and we're all in the classroom, someone's gonna go in there and draw a dick. Sometimes someone will actually do something really cool, like draw like a bunny, but it's like his eyes and his nose are in the shape of a dick, and then the eyes and the nose will be in some kind of chalk further, and then when the teacher erases all that slime. Yeah, okay, so it's super juvenile. I don't necessarily think it has like a sexist agenda like you're gonna claim here, but that's just one man's opinion. I want to know more opinions in the comment section from you guys. But anyways, crucial to this metaphor is the fact that such anatomical graffiti, at least in openly public spaces, is nearly always of a penis. That's right. I completely agree with that, and like I said, I think it sucks. I wish people would do more art and less penises. In one sense, it is a juvenile joke. No. In every sense, it is a juvenile joke. And then it's like, in another and more serious sense, it is a territorial, gendered assertion of power. Not once have I seen a penis being drawn on a wall, and trust me, I've seen plenty of them because I actually grew up on Portugal's equivalent of a ghetto. So I've seen plenty of dicks on walls drawn by graffiti. Some of them, I think I even drew them myself because I was young and stupid. That's how it goes. We don't know any better when we're young and stupid. But it was never a territorial, gendered assertion of power. Power over what, exactly? I don't understand. Power over what? Over the female sex? I don't get it. I don't get that. Such has been the evolutionary trend of the grosser Soulsborne messages, with an important distinction: their targets. You see, this is one of the things that I think it frustrates me, because, like, let's face it, there's the troll messages which people do for, the whole Cliffs things, which he talked about. There's actually the messages that help people out, which they also talked about in this article. But then there's also the memes that show up from the community. Like, I think the amazing chest ahead after Smo and Ornstein, again, I'm bringing that up a lot because that to me was one of the really marking ones. I love that one. But I also think that there's a funny one which also brings a little bit more of a romance aspect to it almost, which is the Pat the Fluffy Tail. Come on! Who doesn't like the Pat the Fluffy Tail? Come on, dude, that's awesome. And there's plenty of, like, really funny messages that people leave. It's not just about the sexism thing, but we're gonna get into a little bit more detail on some other things about this later. As Demon Souls' messaging system became a trope utilized by the Dark Souls trilogy and Bloodborne, so too did its hub, which is always inhabited by a significant female character. For Demon Souls, it is the Nexus and Maiden in Black. For Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3, Firelink Shrine and Firekeeper. So you're trying to tell me that Anastasia is a significant female character in Dark Souls? Is that what we're going with? I think there are plenty of much more significant female characters in Dark Souls, but I digress. Same thing in Dark Souls 3, by the way. I don't think that the Firekeeper, the first Firekeeper that you get, I don't think she's that important. Personal opinion. So, I don't know. I think that there are plenty of other more interesting female characters, both in Dark Souls 1 as well as Dark Souls 3. For Dark Souls 2, Majula and the Emerald Herald. Okay. Emerald Herald, she is definitely a lot of people's waifu. Personally, I always go for Lucatiel. Lucatiel is my personal waifu. The German spy says, Rurikhan, interesting that this article doesn't seem to make any mention of the fact that people slap these kinds of messages on the ground around male characters too. That's right. I didn't even think about that. I wasn't even thinking about that. Because here's the thing, right? Whenever, I always look at it as a compliment. Whenever, like, say, a person of the opposite gender, if that person makes a comment at me like, ooh, Rurikhan, you're looking good, yeah, that ass, and stuff like that, personally, I take that as a compliment. It's like, of course, that never happens, because I got a face that only a mother could love, so that never happens. But if it did happen, I take it as a compliment. That's the way that, so this whole thing about them putting these messages on top of male characters, I never even thought that much about it, but I guess you do have a point, German spy. Thank you very much. Where were we? And the Hunter's Dream and Doll for Bloodborne. Really? The doll? My personal Bloodborne waifu, I forget her name. Hey, it's hard to keep tracks of all these names. It's not a sexist thing. It's the huntress, the female huntress that you help out. She's bleeding by the end. I don't remember her name. And by the way, she's bleeding because she got stabbed. Before you say that, I'm saying that she's bleeding as some kind of sexy remark. Eileen, thank you. Thank you very much. Eileen is my personal... No, not Maria, dude. Maria is too mainstream. Eileen is my baby girl. Okay? Anyways, moving onwards. I don't think that the doll is that sexualized. I don't think I've ever seen sexual messages around the doll, but maybe that's because I'm an innocent snowflake. I don't know, but I haven't really seen that many sexist messages on the doll. Each of these has come to bear the brunt of sexist messages, with other female characters sharing most of the rest. Okay, I do need to ask this though. Does Pat the Fluffy Tail constitute a sexist message? I'm genuinely curious, because I don't think it does. We even have one of the Ironbreakers comes into chat every now and then, Life Hunt Priscilla, and we even have a special emote just for her, which is you type !Pat, and the bot just says, person's name, Pat's the Fluffy Tail, and we all just take it as a joke, and it's funny. And is that sexist? I don't think it is. But anyway, that's my personal take on that. Things weren't too bad at the earlier stages. In Demon Souls, spots where the Maiden in Black would be standing or sitting were indeed complemented by messages, but the tone was more often romanticized, and you'll find true love ahead. This still happens. There's still romantic messages around the female characters in the other Souls games. Then outright sexual. As a matter of fact, I think I found true love messages on the doll. Or love-like messages on the doll. More so than sexual messages. From area to area, and by the way, to put this in context for those of you that don't know that much about me, I've played Souls games for ridiculous amounts of hours. And I do mean like ridiculous amounts of hours. 1, 2, Demon Souls, 3, Bloodborne, all of that. I love the Souls series, which is why I'm so passionate about this particular topic. From area to area, there appeared to be a general willingness to role-play along with the game's bleak atmosphere. Messages left near Maiden Estrella, a saint who cared for the deformed and sickly, who has also served as a fairly harmless boss, whom the player was nonetheless required to kill, tended to be things like "my heart's breaking" rather than anything crass. Yes, it still happens. As a matter of fact, we still see this in the other Souls games as well. You know, whenever there's a female character that sacrifices herself or something like that, people will usually say that stuff. And by the way, From Software themselves kind of sexualized the Black Maiden a little bit in Maiden in Black, for Demon Souls. You know, when a character almost whispers into your ears, "Touch the demon inside me." You know that. There's a little bit of a hint of sexualization there, which is not bad. It's all part of the experience. I don't think that's a bad thing, but hey, feel free to disagree. My heart's breaking right now. In fact, over the past near decade, Demon Souls messages tended to be fine, maybe owing to the unexplored differences in player base or the planar designs for most of the women. The most sexually suggestive message advisable may have been "sticky white stuff," a badly localized name for a magic infusion item. Okay. The fuck is wrong with sticky white stuff? Like, words mean what words mean. The context that you give them, that's up to you. Sticky white stuff can just be sticky white stuff. It doesn't have to be what you're thinking about right now. So now you shouldn't say sticky white stuff because someone might immediately associate it to the sexual substance that is excreted from the penis at the end of sexual intercourse. Well, sometimes not at the end, if you're lucky. But anyway, I digress. I think that people should be able to use sticky white stuff. If there is sticky white stuff. Just saying. It got worse. Perhaps it didn't help that the post-Demon Souls title's promotional material... Okay, this is the part that we really got to focus on. Perhaps it didn't help that the post-Demon Souls title's promotional material and press coverage emphasized the trial and error design. The subtitle for Dark Souls PC release was Prepare to Die Edition. A cover of Edge magazine read, "How the creators of Demon Souls are making the most hardcore game of 2011. This was influenced by, but also fed into, the commentary of many players themselves until there was a perfect loop of word of mouth and branding." Yes, it was genius. It was friggin' genius. During Dark Souls 2 development, co-director Tomohiro Shibuya talked about making the game more accessible, and this invoked an outrage only rarely quelled when it was clarified that such accessibility involved quality of life adjustments. No, that was not the only reason that people were outraged. People were outraged because Tomohiro-san, in my personal opinion, was not able to properly convey the design decisions that were being made behind Dark Souls 2, which is why further ahead it came to Tanimura-san to then take up the torch when it came to PR and stuff, because he was able to better explain their design decisions. It wasn't even that they were doing anything particularly wrong, it was just Tomohiro-san maybe is just better skilled at other things than public speaking, which is fine. And again, this is my opinion, but the way that he was portraying the stuff that was happening around Dark Souls 2 was painting it in a very weird way for people who are fans of the franchise, you know? And that's, again, why Yui Tanimura ended up being the one who talked later, whom I actually interviewed, by the way. Really nice guy. Really liked talking with him. But anyways, all of this recalled video games' earlier advertorial and critical periods that stressed difficulty and presented the medium as an exclusive club where entry was dependent upon performative abilities. Implicitly and explicitly, this was a boys' club. Okay, this is the one sentence that we really gotta talk about this. I mean, come on. Come on now. Are you being serious with this sentence? All of this by all of this she means all of this difficult marketing and how hardcore it was and all of this stuff basically means that the medium was an exclusive club where entry was dependent upon performative abilities, which her conclusion is it's a boys' club. So you're saying that female gamers can't do as well as male gamers in video games? I would almost go as far as to say that's pretty fucking sexist. I mean, I don't know, but that's the way that I feel, because personally, I look at female gamers as equals. They are just as good, and a lot of times, way better than I am. As a matter of fact, there's plenty of female Dark Souls streamers that will kick my ass. And I'm not even saying like to the point where we'll be fighting and they will beat me. No, I'm saying they will kick my ass to the point like I won't even be able to hit them while they beat my face in. And this is someone who's played Dark Souls, all of the Souls games, for many, many hours. Okay, so see, this statement right here, this is sexist. I just want to make it perfectly clear that in my opinion, female gamers are just as good as, if not better, than male gamers in their chosen video games. See, that's the nature of video games. They bring a level playing field. So it's not about physical prowess. It's not about who can lift most, which, by the way, there's still a lot of women that would kick my ass at lifting as well. So this is just a straight up level playing field. It's all about the skill. Okay? Maybe you should go interview some female gamers that play Dark Souls, and maybe they'll tell you all about that. Maybe they'll tell you about how they've made those jokes with the amazing chest ahead as well, because they find it funny, because they probably do. Since this gatekeeping has come under threat as the medium's reach has expanded, we've witnessed escalating hysterics by men to protest their space and consumerist identities. It is not such a leap to hypothesize this tough-as-nails branding of the Soulsborne games drew in a portion of the get good contingent. Anxious, angry, and arrogant men who derive entertainment from surrounding fictional women with ghostly perimeters of misogyny. By the way, I guess I should bring up the point now that one of my original reasons for doing videos about Dark Souls was to show everyone that Dark Souls is not that hard. That Dark Souls, in and of itself, is a game that is it can be very much played by just about anyone. See, my purpose when I started creating videos for Dark Souls was that of inclusivity, of bringing more people into the fold, of telling more people how they can enjoy this game, and how it's not such a boys' club, as you put it, or a hardcore club, as you put it. Anyone that knows how to pick up one of these can beat any of the Dark Souls games. It's not that hard. Okay? It's not that hardcore. The marketing campaign that you talked about with the Prepare to Die and all of that stuff was just that. It was a marketing campaign, and it did exactly what they wanted, which is it generated word of mouth, and it was genius. It's exactly what you want from a marketing campaign. You want people to talk about it, right? But ultimately, you will find, and this is the part that really, really gets to me, the largest percentage of the Dark Souls community is one of the most inclusive communities in video games. People will literally hold your hand and tell you about all of the mechanics because they want you to enjoy it. I'm not going to say that the whole community is perfect. Of course there are trolls, and of course that there are toxic people. Just like in every community ever, there's always black sheep. That's just the way it is. But the Dark Souls community is ridiculously inclusive. I'm sorry, I completely disagree. Completely and utterly disagree. That is like, oh, portion of the good content, anxious, angry, and arrogant. Tell me about how, maybe I am anxious, angry, and arrogant. Am I? You guys let me know. But tell me about how a lot of the people in the Dark Souls community, especially streamers and content creators, are anxious, angry, and arrogant. Who derive entertainment from surrounding fictional women with ghostly perimeters of misogyny. Can't be jokes. No, it's all about grand statements. You know, whenever I type a message in Dark Souls, my first thought is exactly, you know what is my political inclination about this message? Let me think about how sexist and misogynist and bigoted I am right before I put a message down that says amazing chest ahead, which, by the way, I'm not actually sure I've ever done. Usually the one message that I put down is in the forest right before the hidden walls. Usually I put messages like hidden wall ahead. That's usually the most messages that I tend to put down. When Dark Souls 2 hit, any factors mitigating the presence of toxic gamers seem to evaporate. And let me tell you, actually no, let's first see what you have to say, and then I'll tell you why. When Dark Souls 2 hit, any factors mitigating the presence of toxic gamers seem to evaporate, creating an open season for female characters. They and the I can't say this word. Emerald Herald, most of all, were so aggressively targeted by player messages. Weakness, hole, therefore, man required ahead. Try plunging attack, rear. Try two-handing and then destroy. What is... Oh, you mean your is so big that you need a... Okay, gotcha. That I have to date never loaded a file in Majula and found a swamp of textual harassment. Its range extended all the way to the world's near deepest parts, where sheltered mysterious women sang lonely songs. Okay, you've never once loaded a file in Majula and not found a swamp of textual harassment? Never once? I almost want to boot up Dark Souls right now on my PS4 and go to Majula and see what's there. But unfortunately, that would take far too long for me to do, and also my Dark Souls 2 is not installed. But I really wish it was, because I would totally load that shit up just to see if we would find one message of obscenity in there, because that has not been the case for me. Like, sure, sometimes I've seen a couple of messages like that. It has definitely not been every single time, like you claim here, but okay. The women in the hubs of Souls games are, to varying degrees, depicted as subservient. The Maiden in Black is a pigeon-toed, and she and Dark Souls 3's Firekeeper have a sort of binding over their eyes. Anastasia, Dark Souls Firekeeper, has a mutilated tongue and cannot speak. If attacked, the Emerald Herald simply says, if that is your wish, and like the others, will not resist attempts at her life. But it would be a mistake to cast blame upon the women themselves for inviting harassment, as if, like shamed victims of rape, were asking for it. Rather, we should observe that this seems to be a perfect storm of subservient female characters, a portion of an audience eager to reinforce this subservience, and a mechanic which gives them the ability to do so, with a degree of crudity perhaps befitting the message's content. I mean, like, it's like we were already digging deep in the previous stuff that you said. Now you're basically saying, I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into this. You guys tell me, but it almost feels like anyone that tries to make like a funny message on a female character is a rapist. Is that where we're getting at? Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Paladin Leroy says, you know what reinforces bullshit? Kotaku articles reinforce their self-indulging messages of sexism. They picture sexism where there is none and react to the projected sexism. Yeah, I can tell. Like, we've gone full-blown from Dark Souls messages are sexist to a majority of Dark Souls players are rapists. I completely disagree with everything that is being said here. Not to mention that basically what you're saying is that Dark Souls games can't have subservient females, or subservient males for that part. Because I mean, if you have like a subservient male, then a female could go in there and put a message and rape him. I'm sorry, like, you're just like reaching so far now. And by the way, by the way, one of the things that I want to talk about was when Dark Souls 2 hit, any factors mitigating the presence of toxic gamers seemed to evaporate. Let me tell you why. Demon Souls was a niche cult hit. Dark Souls was a little bit more mainstream, but Dark Souls was really when the Souls genre exploded. It was when a lot of people became aware of it, and they became aware of it because of the amazing combat that this game has, the amazing exploration that this game has, the amazing stories that are told in this game, and how they are told in this game, and people love that. The mechanics of multiplayer, the PvP, the invasions, all of that stuff, the jolly cooperation, like that is why Dark Souls really exploded. So when Dark Souls 2 hit, it was basically when Dark Souls was at the peak of its mainstream. And what that means is that it was basically like, you know, you have the entirety of everyone just like, boom, gathering around this game. Even people that never played it before. And whenever that happens in any video game in history that has any sorts of communication function around the community, there is going to be these kinds of troll messages, which you are calling toxic gamers. These are going to always pop up. And I will give you a couple more examples later down. I just wanted to point out that that is why you feel that the factors mitigating the presence of toxic gamers seem to evaporate, is because Dark Souls 2 was just like this massive fucking mega mainstream moment for the Souls franchise. Continuing on, so we got another one. Woman therefore bleeding. Period jokes. Dark Souls 2 and 3, by Dark Souls 2 and 3, it was clear that sexist messages didn't even require a woman to be present. It could be just enough to have details which allow a stereotypical association to be made. A message in front of some bowls in a kitchen area of Dark Souls 3 might say, woman required a head. Okay. Has anyone in this Twitch chat ever seen that message? Anyone? Has anyone in my YouTube comment section ever seen that message? Okay, RipX Talk already says yes. Okay, so RipX Talk's a C. Okay. A lot of people haven't though. But I personally never saw that. Shit, I never even thought about that, to be completely honest. And now, by the way, with this article, you can be assured that a lot more people are now thinking about doing that. But anyway, generic female statue could have woman therefore bleeding written next to it, the implication being that even the representation of a woman is reducible to her Why can't it be a joke? Why is it that why can't we make a period joke? Women do period jokes all the time, don't they? There's like that joke that I think has been wildly passed around by females where it's like the ovaries punching. I don't remember what it was, but it's something about how, you know, when the period comes, they're like, oh, did you do your job in becoming pregnant this month? No. And then they like the ovaries just punch her in the stomach and she starts bleeding. Like, I've seen that being passed around by several women. So women do period jokes as well. What's the big deal? It's not like we're reducing a woman to a menstrual period or her torn hymen. I don't... But anyways. Beneath paintings of the goddess Guinevere in Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3, you'd often find try holding with both hands. I love how she added her breasts. But okay, whatever. Try holding with both hands. Many players are also likely familiar with how Dark Souls' deific character of Gwendolyn, who can be interpreted as a trans woman, often has nearby messages employing trap in the transphobic sense, i.e., if an ostensibly straight man finds himself attracted to someone who turns out to have a penis, he's been maliciously deceived. Okay, so... let me see if I can get this right. Have these communities not tried to get more representations in video games? So, From Software comes in with Gwendolyn, who is a very tragic story, by the way, who was this, as far as I can remember, because it's been a long time since I looked up into Gwendolyn's story, but it was a male character that was raised as a female, and that's why he wears female clothing and all of that stuff, but he is a male, and he also kind of sounds like a woman. But ultimately, that is like a character that clearly has a struggle with its gender, right? Isn't that an adequate representation of a character for the trans community? I think that is actually a pretty good representation of that character. Whether someone put a message in there that says trap, so you would rather From Software not have made that character? You would rather have not seen the message trap in there. I agree. I would rather not have seen the message trap in there. Is it that bad that it's there? Is it the end of the world? I don't think this is the worst thing. I mean, but sure. Okay, maybe it can be kind of offensive that the word trap is there, but is it that big of a deal? It's hard to know what to do about any of this now besides point it all out and call it what it is. A form of censorship was introduced with a list of censored words for character names in Dark Souls 2 PC release, but the list was poorly compiled. For example, no one uses bisexual as an insult. The idea of censoring Lucifer is bizarrely outdated. Bestiality isn't even spelled right, and the banning of whole conflicts with its inclusion in the message's word bank. Moreover, it only drew attention to slurs and expletives, which were otherwise decent words or names. For example, the common title of Knight would show up as this censored thing because it contains Nai or Nig. We all know where that is going. Or if your title were Holy, the censoring of Ho would make it into Li. Okay, so you want more censorship on the naming of characters now? Is that where we're going with this? Like, because I mean, what's your point here, even? Do you want it so that people can't even type a name? Because I've seen plenty of characters. Usually it involved the word ass, because there's so many words that include the word ass in them that people couldn't do. Like, for instance, the name Cassiopeia would show up with ass censored. And it's like, is that where we're going? Like, less censorship is how it should be. And sure, there's going to be people with offensive names. You can't control that. I'm sorry. I'd love it if you could, but you can't. Because at the same time that you think that you're censoring someone's, sexually insulting name or a racial slurring name or whatever, you're also hurting a legitimate user that just wants to call their female character Cassiopeia. Okay? And it's like, the way that needs to be sorted out is through a reporting system, where if someone has a racially slurred name, they should be reported, they should be banned, done. With Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, players were finally able to downvote messages, and such messages would be less likely to appear for other players. What motivated this option's introduction, however, is unknown. No, it's not. Of course it's not unknown. It's because the whole point, like, the simple fact that you say that what motivated this option's introduction is unknown just makes me realize that you don't understand what the point of the messages was in the first place. The point of these messages was so that players could help each other out. But ultimately, they wanted to leave it in the hands of players, whether or not to help people or to troll people. And the introduction of being able to delete messages just supports that in the form of like, oh, someone's trying to troll. Do I want to contribute to the troll, or do I want to cancel the troll? And if you want to cancel the troll, you would downvote it so that you wouldn't have the messages that say, jump ahead in a deathly drop. You know? Or if you wanted to participate in the troll, you could go ahead and vote that message up so that someone would be more tempted to jump and get themselves killed. Because that's how those messages are supposed to be. That's the whole point. It's in the community's hands. This was just them, improving on the system, because previously they would have to like decay the message after a while if it didn't receive enough upvotes or something, but the message would still be there for a long period of time. This is just them like, no, this message stays here if enough people interact with it. Anyways, if it was an indirect way of addressing sexist and asinine message, it wasn't. It was naive, as their messages tend to be among the higher rated ones around. Yes, because everyone's just making fun of it. Democracy in this form hasn't had a positive effect. Reeks of woman, therefore slimy thing is effective. This one's not even funny. Why do you even care about this message? It's not even funny. Slimy thing? What is this? Some unwashed person? Come on. Anyone who has played these games will know that the majority of players' messages don't fit into the discussed paradigm. Lies! They mostly preempt hurdles, proclaim victories, encourage curiosity, and craft humorous, mimetic narratives. Yet the sexist message's exceptional nature arguably heightens their presence. Once you can guess what a bunch of messages around a woman are bound to be, it colors your perception of that space. Coming back to a hub after some spelunking is not just a return to a relative security, but it can be a reminder of the cultural toxicity bubbling beneath the game's surfaces. YouTube user Jameserton video Happy Souls has accrued nearly 17 million views since 2016, and as good-natured as it is, it even contextualizes the sight of the Emerald Herald, encompassing by try thrusting and ambush behind. I haven't seen this video, so I don't know. I don't know what this is about. The general response has been to either tolerate or embrace these messages as a dependable cultural signifier, like a thing that just came with the territory. Frag 882, thank you very much for becoming grossly incandescent. Tip of the hat to you, sir. Appreciate the support. General response, dependable as a cultural signifier, like a thing that just came with the territory. In one Reddit thread about celebrating players' messages, a rare dissenter who clumsily says they've tried off the sleaze is called a salty kid. They're tired of the sleaze is called a salty kid who needs to get good and is told to lighten the fuck up. And another, yeah. I mean, I don't know why they would call him a salty kid that needs to get good if he doesn't like the messages. Oh, rare dissenter who clumsily said they're tired of the sleaze. We need a citation here. Like, what is this? How do we know what this person said? Like, considering your interpretation of this whole situation, I need to know exactly what this person says, but because I can't take your word for it. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but due to the way that you've portrayed yourself in this article, I need to know exactly what this rare dissenter said in order to formulate an opinion. Therefore, a citation or a screenshot, like, you know, you've done all of these screenshots about the terrible slurs that we have here. Why couldn't you do a screenshot of the Reddit thread that you claim this rare dissenter who clumsily says he's tired of the sleaze? See, that's the other thing. You say clumsily says. Most likely this person came off just like super mega trigger happy and just like started smashing on the Souls community. And what do you expect? You know? Like, seriously, a citation would have been greatly helpful here. Anyways, it's called a salty kid. I mean, the simple fact that one of the first things that it said is salty kid, you can already kind of tell that this person didn't go to a Reddit thread to be like super respectful or anything, you know? And another thread elsewhere, a person who specifically voices their disgust for the sexist messages is replied with, "You've always been able to play offline, but just because you've averted your eyes doesn't mean the thing has disappeared. Willful ignorance is not a solution, but you can play offline, and if these messages are so offensive, you don't have to engage in them." That's almost like, oh, I want to go play World of Warcraft, but I don't want the chat to be there. Because you know what Baron's chat is like? You want to talk about sexism? Let's talk about that Baron's chat. What you know about Mankirk's wife? Huh? Oh, yeah. So it's like, look, if you are going to engage in an online game that has any form of communication, there is going to be toxicity, particularly if that game is popular. Unfortunately, that's inevitable. I wish it wasn't like that, but it's like you chose to engage. That was your decision, a conscious decision. But I don't see you going after World of Warcraft. I don't see you going after Fortnite, PUBG, all these big games, League of Legends. I don't see you going after them. I mean, they have chats. I'm pretty sure there's way worse sexist stuff there. We just had recently that Twitch highlight clip of Pokimane where there was a 12-year-old telling Pokimane that he beat his meat to her. You guys probably did an article on that, didn't you? You probably did. And it's probably a really bad one. I'm not going to go look for it now, but yeah, you get Now that I think about it, you guys probably did do that. Ultimately, it is unclear if From Software is aware of the issue. How is this From Software's fault? How is this From Software's fault? Please! Through a rep for the game publisher Bandai Namco, which published most of the Soulsborne games, they declined to comment for this article. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why. Why would they decline to comment on this brilliant article? Probably because they actually like their community, they actually care about their community, and they embrace their community. Unlike you, you're the kind of person that tries to join this community and be like, oh, but I really want to come. Let's say you're the kind of person that goes to someone's house to spend the night, and then you're like, you let your cat sit on the sofa? Ugh, I'm not gonna sit on the sofa because the cat's been there. That's the kind of person that you sound like to me. They did at least refrain from including the term sticky white stuff. Yes! Censorship wins! Yes! Don't put sticky white stuff! Censorship! I love it! The item's equivalent didn't reappear in Dark Souls 2 as aromatic ooze, and this term was absent from the word bank. Was aromatic ooze the equivalent to sticky white stuff? I actually don't know. I don't use sticky white stuff, so I don't know. When Demon Souls servers shut down this year on February 28th, and later the upcoming Sengoku-themed Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was revealed to have no online component, both carried a sting for many people. It is disappointing for those of you From Software's modern output as inseparable from the multiplayer elements. For myself, though, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. Okay, see, this part right here, this is where you lose a lot of whatever you're trying to build up, because you're like, oh, just because I can play offline, like you say here, willful ignorance is not a solution. What the fuck is this? Those people still exist. The people that post those messages, they still exist. They still have the same thoughts. And if they could do the same things, they still would. So what you're saying is, oh, I was so relieved I'm not going to have to deal with those people because the game is single player only. Yeah. You can play the other games offline and you won't have to deal with those people. How amazing is that? All of them. All of the games can be played offline. You never have to go online for a single minute, so that you don't have to have your fragile ego bruised by all those terrible, sexist messages. I mean, come on. If you're gonna say that you're relieved that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice does not have a multiplayer component, you can just play the other ones offline. And this whole article would never have had to exist, and I wouldn't have had to have made this video. This is ridiculous. It's almost like at the end of the article, this person just goes, but you know what? Fuck it all. I don't really care about anything I just said. That's almost what I feel like. Because it's so weird. It's so weird, dude. Like, I don't understand. But ultimately, what I was getting at throughout some portions of this thing is like, look, whenever you have a game that's popular and has an online component to it, there's going to be toxicity. I would love it to be different. I really would. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff that you brought up in here is not toxic in nature. It is a joke. And why can't people have these jokes? Why can't we all just entertain ourselves and joke about things? And this is one of the things that really bothers me. Because nowadays, it's like, oh, so sensitive to these things, to all of this stuff. And like, I understand everybody goes through struggles in life, but you need to understand that literally everybody goes through struggles in life. Like, for instance, you might watch this video. You might assume, oh, Rurakan doesn't struggle with everything. He's a white heterosexual man. He's full of privilege and all of these other things that are being said. Nobody knows my life unless you've been following me for long enough time. You don't know what I've done. You don't know what I've been through. Just like I don't know what you've done. I don't know what you've been through. But at the same time, I do know that I don't get offended at every little thing just because I've had to struggle through certain things in life. And neither should you. But anyways, that's my personal take on this. You guys let me know what you guys think about it. And I'll see you on the next one.